All right, everybody, welcome to another action-packed edition of Tony Talks. So a lot of stuff going on in the world. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And we're going to talk about some of those things. Actually, it's pretty much more the same shit. COVID this, Omicron that. Delta hit me in the head with a wiffle ball bat. No, no, no. I'm kidding, of course. It's been a lot of things that have brought uncertainty into our lives. We don't know if we should trust a 53-year-old stand-up comedian that has been talking to people and just having conversations with them with pretty much limited fact-checking oversight for the last 10 or so years. Or should we listen to people like CNN who have been in our lives, most trusted name in news, or Fox News, which is fair and balanced, or MSNBC, which is the Democrats are always right. So who do we trust? Who do we trust? Because there is a struggle going on right now between the mainstream media and Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan being that comedian that I was referencing earlier. So, it's a lot of stuff with Spotify. You had Neil Young and some other people withdrew their content, their music from Spotify in order to protest Joe Rogan being on their platform, because Joe Rogan, they say it's vaccine misinformation that has been brought into the forefront, or information that isn't accurate in accordance with the mainstream narrative. And if you're not in line with the mainstream narrative, then you're really not in line, or you'll be opposed or threatened to be canceled by CNN and a lot of these major news conglomerates, which doesn't make any sense to me. Isn't news new? Information is always new. It's always changing. And last time I was following things, it was on this comedian's platform on Spotify. Well, it probably wasn't even on Spotify at the time, but he was the one that first brought to the forefront the idea that the coronavirus, COVID-19, was started in a lab, the Wuhan lab leak theory. And that was called a conspiracy theory. You were ridiculed. You were thought to be a nut if you considered that to be an actual plausible possibility. You were called a racist and all this crazy shit just because you thought there may be credibility to the fact that the coronavirus was started in China. It started in China, and you were thought to be considered racist if you thought that they could start it in a lab leak. It's not like it was deliberately leaked out, but it was a lab leak. Leaks are accidental. That's why, that's, I don't know what's racist about that. It's just, it's science. It's according to my paisan, Tony Fauci. It's a different kind of science. It's not the science that he tells you to believe. He tells you to believe whatever he says. If you're not with him, you're not with science. But now it seems to be the, one of the more predominant theories about how COVID started is that it started in a lab, and it leaked out. And here we are, fucking over 2 years later, into this shit, going through the Greek alphabet like we're pledging for fraternity, figuring out what all this stuff means, what all these new strands mean for us, I guess. So when it makes little to no sense how the media is just fucking shot. I mean, that's what this all comes down to. And they don't like that somebody that has no overlords or masters above them. People say Spotify is, but I guarantee you, if Joe Rogan got off Spotify tomorrow, he could create his own shit and it would still be bigger than anything that the media does, anything that comes from anything else that comes from Spotify. His average audience size is bigger than like the next five major news conglomerates combined. If you combine Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, whoever the hell else there is now, they would not equal Joe Rogan's outreach. You have to like use like all of them. I saw the chart recently, but it's not like these they pose no threat to him. He's just taken their whole market because their market sucks because they're not news. CNN isn't it's opinion pieces. It's you. It's like if I'm a Jet fan and I'm turning on SNY in New York and I'm learning about the Jets and everything. They are framing the picture for us to see how they want the Jets to be seen. It's the same thing, except you have the Democrats have all these left wing outlets, and the Republicans have Fox News, which they frame and they shape, and they, if they want Trump to be the president, Fox News is going to create the narrative if it's Trump versus Biden in 2024 or whatever. If you're a Trump fan, you're going to go to Fox News to learn about the talking points to argue with people about why Trump is better. And if you're a Joe Biden fan, you're going to go on CNN or some shit to learn about why Joe Biden is better than Trump. It's just you're just following a narrative that's being shaped, before you. I don't know, but and with Joe Rogan, there really is no fucking narrative. When the COVID shit first started, he had a doctor on this show that said there's gonna be a 2% fatality rate, that we were gonna be looking at all like very quickly into the millions of people dying when we were first learning about coronavirus. That was in like February or March 2020. Yeah, it was February or March 2020. He had, I don't remember the doctor's name, but that was the first time he had somebody on that painted a clear picture about COVID. And of course, obviously, you learn more as the virus evolves and as the science evolves. The science evolves. What your knowledge of things changes every day. Like there's if you just look at like any type of quantum physics view of reality, it's constantly changing. That's what the Higgs boson is all about. That's what people's understanding of black holes constantly changes. Things change. So for there to be a narrative out there that things don't change in this one area it's just asinine. So it's worthwhile to have somebody in. He really is like in charge. He's the most he really is the most trusted person that people listen to, and it's insane because he's the fear factor guy. The fear factor guy is who we have to turn to for fair, balanced, transparent news. Not CNN, not Fox News. We turn to the fear factor guy. What does that say about CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, CNBC, DNBC, FNBC? What are we going to do? What's it going to be? What does it say about them? You guys were the ones that had the audience that, especially during Trump's administration, people would tune into you guys all the time. And especially before major social media networks and everything, people turned to the news. You would always turn on the news at 10. You would always, that's who your trusted sources were. I remember growing up, it would be you go to the man in the fucking TV or the woman in the TV, and they would tell you what reality is. But they lost the audience because they're not trustworthy. Joe Rogan's a guy that sits there and lays out an entire broad picture of whatever the fuck he wants to talk about, whether it's COVID, mixed martial arts, fellow comedians, people writing books about why you should get more sleep, whatever. And for 3 hours, they get a chance to lay everything out and present all their points. And sometimes he has people that have two different viewpoints on. Like I know he did this with the and he's talked about doing this with COVID and with COVID vaccines. Robert Malone, he asked him if he would be open to having somebody come on the show that has an opposite stance that he has in regards to the COVID vaccines. And Malone said yes. So it's the most honest place you could find news, is legitimately it's the fucking Joe Rogan Experience, as ironic or as crazy as that sounds. So it is what it is. Um, that's the Joe Rogan versus the media. That's the what's being talked about on CNN. They had somebody on, and she asked, why, this, they call them racist. They call them all this stupid. They've taken these words that used to have substance. Like if you accuse somebody of being a racist, there was like a strong stigma attached to that. And usually it was because there was typically some type of evidence behind the person being a racist. Or if you told somebody a sexist, there was, because like it would hurt more than it does today. But because they've oversaturated everything with being racist and being sexist, the words there's no depth behind them now. They don't mean what they used to mean. If somebody called this, I'd be like, okay, you're just a fucking idiot, because it's just a way of putting up a defense without having to present any facts about anything. Just because people have different opinions about stuff that's not even relevant to fucking race or sex. They're being called racist or sexist. And that's what cancel culture is. That's what it's fucking snowballed into. So when people were talking about when we cancel things, first it starts with the founding fathers. What's next? Is it going to be this guy? What's next? Is it going to be that guy? And yeah, it's turned into all those people, and it's turned into our modern lives where everybody can be fucking accused of things without any real substance behind it. And now the words don't mean what they meant anymore. So that's what happens in fucking society when you bullshit. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate it correctly, but that's what's happened. It's clear as day. Everybody, they call Rogan racist, sexist, transphobic. He has people of all races on his show all the time. He's been in martial arts his whole life. He's constantly around people with different backgrounds. Yeah, and as far as sexism goes, he's been somebody that's been talked about. Why Amanda Nunes, who's a gay woman, lesbian woman, hasn't been getting more mainstream press, because she's diverse. She's from Brazil. She's a tremendous athlete. She was arguably, until she lost recently, man or woman, you could have made the case, pound for pound, one of the best mixed martial artists of all time. And he constantly championed her to get more attention on his podcasts, like because of what she represented, and of course, what she's the symbol of people being able to do anything, no matter what their fucking race, gender, sexual orientation is. So whatever, people are fucked. It's too much boogeyman creation, like syndrome going on. We've had this culture where there's like I think it's called othering, and this is like a real term in sociology, where there's a narrative placed around, and it used to be like race or sex based, or I'm not exactly sure, but you create enemies just by making it seem like they're other, they're not part of you. And people are doing that based on people's political beliefs, or just based on their ability to be a threat to what you believe in, which is dangerous. And it sounds like it's from the 1940s in fucking Germany, where there was, people get mad at that. You just create enemies that aren't really enemies. And I never heard Rogan saying on his podcast he wouldn't talk to people based on what the fuck they believed in. It's always been he's always tried to have people on his. He's not perfect. Look, I've been listening to him fucking for years now, and there's things where I roll my eyes at, or I'm like, he's stupid on this or whatever. But he's definitely way more transparent and trustworthy in that what he's saying is what he actually believes, and it's not coming from a narrative from a corporate headquarters somewhere being forced down your throat. That's the one thing I'll say for sure. I mean, the guy started, he was selling pocket pussies on his podcast, and now he's got 30, like, so like, I don't know how many millions of listeners every episode. And the White House is commenting on this shit, and it's a crazy thing what's happened. Um, with how people are they're trying to cancel him. He didn't even do anything. He just spoke to these guys. He spoke to the guy that helped create the mRNA vaccines, the technology behind this vaccine. He spoke to that guy, and people want to cancel him. He didn't even do it. Nobody's accused him of any type of malicious activities or anything. And it's bonkers. And you had, Whoopi Goldberg got suspended from the View because she said the Nazis weren't attacking or weren't trying to exterminate the Jews out of race. They were just it was about man being evil against other men. Gina Carano, who was the actress on The Mandalorian, former MMA fighter, she posted like a meme or something that was probably out of touch, probably something stupid, about comparing with the things that the Democrats were doing to like Nazis. It was stupid. It was bad. But the thing that Whoopi Goldberg actually said on TV and then like kind of reinforced it when she went on a talk show. I think she went on Jimmy Kimmel or something. Not Jimmy Kimmel, like Jimmy Fallon. And it sounds much worse. What Whoopi Goldberg said, and Whoopi Goldberg got suspended for 2 weeks, and Gina Carano got fired from The Mandalorian, which is like insane. And so here's the thing. If you're going to have a standard, apply your standard across the board. Don't pick and choose because people are more in line with your beliefs that you change the standard. And all this shit, it's with Jeff Zucker is happening now too. He was the head on CNN. He had a romantic relationship with the woman for like 20 something years. And yet people on CNN are coming to his defense saying, no, he's a good guy. They had a consensual relationship. If this was a Fox News Network guy that was having this type of relationship with somebody, they would have wanted him off with their heads, off with his head, because he used this position and it could kind of be seen as of being like too influential and taking advantage of someone. But because it's fucking this guy that probably got these people all their fucking jobs to begin with, they're like, no, he's the heart and soul of CNN. It's like, no, this guy, like what he was doing. And the thing is, I wouldn't have an issue with most of this stuff if there was a clear standard being applied across the board to everybody. But because you're picking and choosing who to cancel, who not to cancel, who's good, who's bad, it just shows that it's politically motivated. It's all nonsense. There's no principle here. These people don't have principles. They're just trying to cancel their enemies. They're trying to stand up their allies, and their allies, if their allies do something wrong, they're going to turn a blind eye, or they're going to even defend their allies. Meanwhile, people like fucking Rogan, the guy hasn't done anything. They're pretty much just trying to control what you can listen to and what you can decide with your own fucking. They're pretty much saying you're too stupid to decide what is news, what is real, what isn't, that they have to decide for you by canceling him and getting him taken off Spotify. Which, if he gets taken off Spotify, he's gonna be bigger than he was to begin with on fucking Spotify. I hate Spotify. The only reason why I have Spotify is so I can listen to his podcast. And I hate the software and the way it runs because it cancels episodes in the middle of things and starts whatever. I would be fine. I would be happier if he got off Spotify because it'd probably be a more efficient and better software. And I never had an issue with listening to his shows before Spotify. But what I'm saying is, and I'm digressing a little bit, is the main purpose of trying to cancel somebody like that who hasn't done anything who hasn't been accused of like rape or anything crazy, is just because they think you're too stupid to decide for yourself. And they're saying he's providing misinformation and he's doing this and he's doing that. Information is always fucking changing. The World Health Organization in February of 2020 or January of 2000, in very early 2020, there's a tweet from the World Health Organization saying there's no proof that COVID-19 coronavirus spreads from person to person. That's a fact. That is a 100% black and white fact. World Health Organization, COVID doesn't spread person to person. That was misinformation, but it was early, so we forgave them. Or whatever. Who the fuck knows what any of these people's or any of these big organizations' motives really fucking are. Because I don't, you don't. And who knows what they know when they know it. But news is new. So when you find out new shit about current news, you should just update it. You don't have to label everything as misinformation just because it doesn't fit your narrative. And you should let people decide for themselves what the fuck they should listen to or what they want to listen to. Some people want to listen to Joe Rogan. Some people want to watch CNN still. Let the people decide. Don't fucking tell us what we are smart enough to listen to and what we're dumb enough to listen to. I know what I'm dumb enough not to listen to. That didn't make sense. Bottom line is, no one's dumb enough to listen to me when it comes to any of this shit. But, and maybe you shouldn't listen to Joe Rogan, but if he has a guy on that's well credentialed, he had Sanjay Gupta on. He made Sanjay Gupta look terrible, the CNN chief medical correspondent. They had him go on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan pretty much embarrassed him by bringing up articles that were contrary to what Gupta was saying. And then they were framing it like Rogan did something wrong on CNN. They changed the filter of this guy's video to make him look different than how his show is usually produced. This is insane. These people cannot be trusted. They're adding filters onto him and his show to make them look different. And he gets the CNN guy on. They'll never go back on because they looked ridiculous, because they're not to be trusted. They're 100% not to be trusted. But do what you want, though. Do what you want. You should have a right to fucking choose what you listen to. You shouldn't have to worry about censorship. That's what the fucking First Amendment is. And these idiots at the White House, Jen Psaki, whatever the fuck her name is, saying that they're like encouraging platforms to censor people if they're spreading misinformation, when it's not misinformation. It's just views and narratives that are contrary to what you are trying to pump out and propagandize into our fucking minds. That's all it is. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all has been about for fucking years. And good for Chris Cuomo for bringing all that shit out about Jeff Zucker. They fired him. They made him look like an asshole. Meanwhile, they were the ones hand in hand doing everything with him, with his brother Andrew. Of course, the guy's gonna. If I'm running a fucking news show, and I'm told I have to help my brother out, and the heads of the program are helping him out along with me, and then they're gonna fire me because I was coaching him or whatever. You should go down with them too. And that's how all this shit came to light with Jeff Zucker and his little piece there, what he was bada bing bada boom, you know what I mean? But so good for my paisan not just laying down and having some balls and fighting back, because look, I don't like Chris Cuomo to begin with, or Andrew Cuomo's an asshole. Andrew Cuomo sending these people with the nursing homes and all the deaths that happen. It's fucking terrible. But we have to trust each other. We have to trust each other here in America. And you know what? When they're telling you who you can trust and who you can't trust, usually it's because you can't trust them. So trust who your heart tells you to trust and who your balls tell you to trust. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think that's it. It's been some time since I came on here. I kind of ranted and raved. Hopefully this shit made sense. Hopefully somebody gets a kick out of it. And hopefully I get to see you guys next time on Tony Talks at Tony Talks Comedy on Instagram and TikTok and whatever else. If there's anything else that I'm forgetting, I'll post it in the description. Thanks. Go fuck yourselves. I'm just kidding. Till next time, Tony out.